Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a first look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl has an incredible typing. It's a dark fairy type with the moveset of Sucker Punch, Foul Play, and Play Rough. Grimmsnarl has released in Gigantamax raids at the Go Wild area in Nagasaki, Japan. And good news is, you can remote raid into those raids. That's how I was able to get mine. If you don't want to use a remote raid pass, however, you can wait 1 week as it will have its global release at the Global Go Wild area event. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at Grimmsnarl for the very first time in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Shadow Dusknoir into Shadow Scizor. While Dusknoir is able to outdamage the Scizor, Scizor has the pacing advantage, meaning that it's able to grab a shield first. Dusknoir gonna look to try and get that shield back with a Shadow Punch. Dusknoir will get outpaced, so I wait 1 turn and get a catch onto my Corviknight. Corviknight not worried about a Night Slash whatsoever. Scizor gonna farm up energy, and now out comes Regidrago. Regidrago not going to have a strong matchup into the Corviknight. Corviknight will fire off the payback and then will connect for some pretty significant damage. By getting a catch that did actually desync the switch timers, which is pretty nice for me. So I'm going to look to farm up, and then right as they get to the Dragon Energy, I'm going to get a switch and a catch onto Grimmsnarl. Dragon Energy will be double resisted, and now I can look for a full farm down. Opponent switches, in comes Shadow Scizor. They're able to make a move, but it's only a Night Slash. That's double resisted. Grimmsnarl tanks that no problem and farms down. In the back is Belly Bolt. This Belly Bolt is on Sucker Punch, which means they do not have a lot of fast move damage. The Foul Play gets the shield, and Grimmsnarl wins charge attack priority. This Play Rough is gonna hurt. That's big damage onto the bulky Belly Bolt. Belly Bolt, now stuck throwing the Parabolic Charge, is forced to take the knockout. And now back in comes Dusknoir. Dusknoir saved this energy from the start of the game, and now it comes in clutch. A Shadow Punch plus an Astonish knocks out. In comes Regidrago, and I have loaded energy on the Corviknight. Corviknight takes the knockout with the payback, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Shadow Dusknoir into Tinkaton. Considering that I have a Grimmsnarl in the back, I am very happy to catch this Tinkaton on the lead. Tinkaton is going to overfarm a massive amount of energy, and I will respect the Play Rough. Play Rough would do quite a bit of damage, and I get baited by a Bulldoze. That is absolutely devastating. I will now fire off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch gets the shield right back, and once again, we're waiting a turn and getting a catch onto Corviknight. We do catch the Play Rough. That is a massive swing. My opponent is going to stay in and look to bank a bunch of energy before sending out the bulky Blastoise. I like going for the Air Cutter because there's a 30% chance this matchup suddenly gets way easier. Unfortunately, this time it's the 70% where my attack stat remains exactly the same. Either way, Payback will still do some pretty valuable chip damage, and I can switch back into the Shadow Dusknoir and go for the CMP Sack Swap. This Blastoise is loaded. They could not afford to take the move because Dynamic Punch may have knocked out and cost them all their energy, so they're forced to put up the shield. They stay in, and they will go for another Hydro Cannon. I'm going to be shielding up the Dusknoir and immediately under-tapping the Shadow Punch. This covers for if they try and snipe with the energy on Tinkaton as well. They just stay in, get knocked out, and in the back is Regidrago. Regidrago looking for a farm down, but I have a very high-rank Shadow Dusknoir. Dusknoir makes the Shadow Punch, but with this energy head start, Grimmsnarl is probably getting Hyper Beamed. In comes Grimmsnarl. Come on, I know it's pretty glassy. I need it to hang on. Hyper Beam, catastrophic damage. They switch into the Tinkaton, and I respond with the Corviknight. Corviknight is going to do very well here, completely shutting down the energy from Tinkaton. Play Rough does absolutely nothing. Granted, my charge attacks don't do much of anything here either, but at this point, it's just a numbers game. I still don't think this is Air Cutter range, so I just want to guarantee the knockout and throw the payback. Air Cutter at this point may have knocked out, but I'm not taking any chances. Switch clocks up, the switch into the Grimmsnarl, and I don't survive with a lot of HP, but with enough HP remaining to make the Foul Play, KO the Regidrago, and take the win. We see a pretty neutral lead in the next match, leading Shadow Dusknoir into Togekiss. Togekiss going to strike first, threatening a Dazzling Gleam, and that's just too much damage if it lands, so I will shield. There's going to be the safe switch, out comes their own Dusknoir, and this could get a little bit scary. I throw the Shadow Punch, they end up no shielding, and that is unfortunate. I was hoping to get the shield and then send in Grimmsnarl to farm all the way down. But now, I've stayed in for too long, and I've kind of complicated things. I really was not expecting them to no-shield that Dusknoir, and it kind of threw off my plan. Now I get to bring in the Grimmsnarl, I get a farm down, but what's Grimmsnarl going to do into Togekiss? So I farm up a bunch of energy, send in the Corviknight, and in the back is Gastrodon. Gastrodon will be able to threaten some pretty solid damage with Water Pulse. I go for the Air Cutter once again, and this time I get the boost on the very first try. That is some very nice luck. I tried it the previous game, I did not get it, but this time fishing for that boost is going to make my life dramatically easier. Now I can go for Air Cutters, they will do quite a lot of damage. I didn't want my opponent to land a Water Pulse before I could land another Air Cutter because I'm just trying to get them as low as I possibly can. Water Pulse can land, but it's just simply not going to be enough to knock out. They do have a ton of energy on the Togekiss, and there is the switch in. Togekiss will fire off the Aura Sphere. I put up the shield, and I throw one and the Air Cutter. My opponent is not going to be able to peck down before I make it to another boosted Air Cutter, so they will have to throw. And when they do, now I have to hope that I can Sucker Punch down with Grimmsnarl. This is going to be very close. Come on, Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl looking for the farm down, getting the farm down of Togekiss, and that is going to secure the win. Man, I should have just brought in the Grimmsnarl as soon as I saw the Dusknoir, but I thought that I could get the shield before doing so, and that almost ended up costing me the game. We get a great lead in the next match, Shadow Dusknoir into Shadow Golurk. My opponent safe switches into a Shadow Claw Golisopod. I wanted to check the fast move before I switched out, and now that I've confirmed that a Shadow Claw, I send out the Grimmsnarl. Realistically, I have 3 Pokemon that beat Golurk, so switch advantage isn't incredibly important here, but I would like to try and get this closer to a range where I could knock it out with either an Air Cutter or a Shadow Punch. My opponent's actually going to bank energy, and look at the spice, they send out Shadow Honchkrow. Honchkrow, obviously a recipient of that Peck buff as well, and now I learned that I am very, very weak to Honchkrow with this team. I was able to get the shield with the Play Rough, I was hoping they would just let it go, but now I'm getting absolutely shredded by Shadow Dark Pulse. Air Cutter is going to land big damage onto the Honchkrow. Honchkrow farming up, but I'm able to make it to a second Air Cutter. This is big as I think it's just going to knock out the Honchkrow. Honchkrow does get KO'd, and in comes Golurk. Golurk should throw instantly, so I go for the catch, and unfortunately I do not get the catch. I should still be able to win the game because I still have my Shadow Dusknoir, but man, I was really confident they were going to throw before I got to my payback, but they had other ideas. Shadow Punch will land, taking the knockout, in comes Golisopod, and Golisopod from here, I should just be able to shield once and farm down. I'm not in Aqua Jet range anyway, but I'd rather be safe here, so I put up the shield, farm down, and take the win. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Shadow Dusknoir into Primeape. A lot of Dusknoirs like to throw an alignment here to outpace, and my opponent tries to actually predict that. But I don't like throwing on alignment, so I actually end up trying to go for good timing, and in doing so, just get a free Astonish. They catch Dynamic Punch onto Shadow Blastoise, and the game is afoot. I'm able to re-bank Dynamic Punch for later and send out the Corviknight. Corviknight gonna take quite a bit of damage from the Shadow Hydro Cannons, but I would rather take the Hydro Cannons here than anywhere else, as this is my bulkiest Pokemon on this team. Hydro Cannon is gonna land. I'm just looking to farm up to the back-to-back Air Cutters and really look to ramp up the pressure on my opponent as I exit with the Air Cutter loaded. Here, I try and throw one Sand Attack in the move, and I accidentally throw 2. That is unfortunate, as I will lose the Air Cutter, but that means they exit without a lot of energy, and oh my goodness, Trainer, I'm so sorry. It is Armored Mewtwo in the back, and Armored Mewtwo is about to hit an absolute brick wall as in comes Grimmsnarl. Dynamic Punch, it's not going to matter. They end up going for a Psy Strike BM and resign the match. Oh, that is so unfortunate, as they were just completely hard countered in that game. We get a decent lead in the next match, Dusknoir into Kyurem, but there's a big problem on the safe switch, and its name is Feraligatr. Every team's going to have a weakness, and this team is incredibly soft to Feraligatr. Feraligatr is going to be firing off Hydro Cannon. It doesn't knock out, but it'll get me way too low, so I put up the shield, throw an Astonish, and then send in Corviknight. I'm hoping that Air Cutter will be able to knock out Feraligatr. I haven't played UL in quite a while, so I'm a little bit rusty, and unfortunately, it does not. They're able to save back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and out comes Shadow Talonflame, and I'm in so much trouble. Payback lands, that's big damage. They are not going to let me get to the Air Cutter, but the good news is I do have energy on the Dusknoir. So before they're able to make a boosted fly, they're going to have to give up a shield, as Shadow Punch will actually be lethal. So I go for the Shadow Punch, it KOs, and they're going to bring back in the Kyurem. Kyurem will be greeted with the Grimmsnarl, and they're going to immediately apply a Glaciate debuff. My only way to win this game is if a Sucker Punch is able to KO. I know that I just got debuffed, but Grimmsnarl, please KO, and it doesn't. Oh no, Shadow Feraligatr, 1 HP remaining, but that's enough. They take the knockout, and with that, I do not have a way to win this game. Kyurem makes the Glaciate. Amazing energy management from my opponent. They recognized I didn't have a Feraligatr answer, and they played perfectly to punish that. We move to the next game, Shadow Dusknoir against Unova Stunfisk. Stunfisk is a Pokemon that obviously I really don't want to see in the back with my Corviknight, so I'm very happy to catch it here. It looked like my opponent was missing turns at the start of this game, so I'm not quite sure where they're at energy-wise, but I'm going to fire off the Shadow Punch. It looks like another Shadow Punch would not knock out, so I will go for Dynamic. Dynamic is going to land, but it does not do enough. They survive on 1 HP, and they're able to get some valuable damage with Mud Bomb. They're going to be bringing out Kyurem. Kyurem will get the farm down, but now I get to send in Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl with a fairy subtyping double resisting dragon is incredibly nice. Glaciate's obviously going to do a lot of damage. But the good news for me is that they just have no fast move pressure. Now, the Sucker Punches will continue to add up even though they've been debuffed, and the fast move pressure is starting to become a problem for them. Another Glaciate, another shield from the Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl continuing to farm up, but a miscount from me means that unfortunately, I threw 1 Sucker Punch too late, and I'm forced to burn my final shield. In comes Shadow Dusknoir. At that point, I think I was triple debuffed, so I ended up bailing out into the Corviknight. The threat of a payback should guarantee a shield from my opponent. A shielded payback, I could lose this game, but if I'm able to land an Air Cutter, that should guarantee that it's in foul play range. So getting the shield should just win this for me. Now I can go for what can only be an Air Cutter, but that's all the damage that I need. My opponent overfarms, that allows me to get to a second Air Cutter, which will burn the switch clock, and then I go for the combo play with the Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl had a ton of energy loaded, foul play will take the knockout onto the Dusknoir, in comes Kyurem, Kyurem gets Sucker Punched down, and we're able to take the win. Shadow Dusknoir versus Regidrago in the next match. I'm going to farm up, wait a few turns, and get the catch onto Corviknight. I definitely feel a lot more clear-headed today. I feel like I'm a lot more back in the game, and I feel like it definitely shows in my gameplay. I throw Air Cutter with Corviknight to try and stall out the switch timer on Regidrago, but they ended up catching it onto Bellibolt and then shielding it. My guess is they didn't realize that I waited the turns when I made that catch, so they thought that I had a few sand attacks more than I did, and that's why they ended up putting up the shield. Well, after taking a Parabolic Charge, I can go for the payback and then pivot into the Dusknoir. I just need damage on this Pokemon, and a payback followed up by a Shadow Dynamic Punch is a pretty good way to get it. I'm going to be no shielding, as it's going to be Grimmsnarl that's going to have to win or lose me this game. Opponent is going to switch into Regidrago, and Regidrago will be able to take the knockout with Dragon Energy. However, now it's time to unleash Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl, I'm just going to go for the 1 shield farm down, because I know that Hyper Beam will basically one-shot me. We learned that right at the start of the video. So I'll shield up the Hyper Beam, get the full farm down. What are they bringing in? Are they going to be bringing in their third, or are they going to be bringing back that Bellibolt? It's their third, it's Corviknight, and this is going to be an interesting endgame. I have a huge head start on Grimmsnarl, which is exactly what I'm going to need. I'm just going to keep spamming out foul play after foul play. If I can get an Air Cutter catch, that would be quite nice. So I'm going to farm up, switch into the Corviknight, and my opponent does end up throwing energy. Air Cutter would be enough to knock out, but it appears they misremembered how much health I had on the Corviknight, and they ended up going for the payback. That should basically seal it here unless they're able to get a catch. I'm going to overfarm past the move, and thankfully, the catch does not come through, so this game will be a win. Foul play lands, takes the knockout. All that's left is 1 Sucker Punch of health on that Bellibolt. Hopping into the final match, leading Shadow Dusknoir into a familiar lead, which is Togekiss. Togekiss, I'm guessing they're probably on Dazzling Gleam, as that's what the first one was. My opponent throws on 8, throwing on atypical timing, but probably just to ensure that I do not get the catch. Now it's their turn to catch, but they end up catching onto Dusknoir. Dusknoir, yeah, it would take quite a lot of damage, so my opponent will end up putting up a shield. I will fire off the Shadow Punch. There gonna be no shielding this time, and I decide that I'm gonna send out Corviknight. I'm reading that this could potentially be a bait out, so I'm going to keep Grimmsnarl in the back in case I need it. Dusknoir goes for Dynamic Punch. That's big damage, but I just get the sand attack down. I exit with quite a lot of energy, and when they bring back in the Togekiss, this energy is going to come in handy. Air Cutter is going to land. I get the boost, and that means the second Air Cutter, I believe, will actually knock out. So I go for this Air Cutter. Oh no, it doesn't. Even with the boost, man, Air Cutter is a weak move. They hang on. They make the Aura Sphere. In the back is actually Gastrodon. So it's the team that I saw before. So ideally, I probably should have saved the Corviknight for the Gastro and brought the Grimmsnarl into the Dusknoir. But I think either way, it's going to be a win. And my opponent, unfortunately, misremembers the residual energy that I had on the Dusknoir, and they played to a CMP tie that they do not win. This match basically just shows the power of Dusknoir plus Corviknight. It's an incredible duo, and Grimmsnarl is just on cleanup duty for a few sucker punches of damage. Water Pulse lands, Grimmsnarl, pretty glassy, but will take 2 KOs to secure the win. And now some final thoughts on Grimmsnarl and its Ultra League viability. I think typing-wise, Grimmsnarl is off to an amazing start. Dark plus Fairy has really nice synergy. The Fairy typing is honestly doing the majority of the work, as it's able to cancel out weaknesses to Bug and Fighting that would otherwise be pretty problematic. Moveset-wise, I feel like they did pretty nice justice to Grimmsnarl. Sucker Punch, Foul Play, Play Rough is a pretty nice moveset. It all gets same type attack bonus. So overall, I think they did a pretty nice job with Grimmsnarl. I think the biggest drawback for Grimmsnarl is the stats. We're talking it's in the 175 attack range in the Ultra League, which means it is very, very frail. And in a meta that has a lot of fast pacing debuffers that can artificially increase their own bulk and just really draw out matchups, being a glassier Pokemon is oftentimes punished just because even if you're in a neutral matchup, like against something like a Credilli, in the long run, Credilli will just be able to crush Grimmsnarl by virtue of just debuffing it and basically making itself unkillable, whereas Grimmsnarl's lack of bulk, it can't really fix. So I think this is definitely more of a Pokemon for fun than like a new meta threat. But I think because they did really nice justice to its moveset, I think it's a very playable Pokemon. It's definitely on like the anti-meta / spice side of things. I don't think it's going to be overrunning the Ultra League or anything like that, but it's a fun Pokemon to play, and I believe that's now back-to-back new releases with Spidops and now with Grimmsnarl, where I feel like they've actually done a really nice job with the moveset of the Pokemon, instead of us having to wait for a future move update down the road for the Pokemon to see any kind of viability. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.